Stella, welcome to the first ever 826 NYC volunteer interview series. I am here today joined by long-term volunteer and professional comedian and comedy writer, Orli Matlow. Hello, Orli, welcome.
Hello, excited to be here.
We're so happy to have you. Can you give a little introduction about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, guys. I'm Orli Matlow, as Stella mentioned. I'm a comedian and writer. I've written for a wide range of TV projects, including a true crime comedy show on Sundance TV and a docuseries about the Cold War that wanted jokes. So from Yalta to Malta, if you like your Cold War documentaries with a side of pop culture references. I have a podcast called War is Stupid, an anti-war podcast about war. So I comedy and history podcast that challenges the conventional wisdom that war is the smart and sensible thing to do. And yeah, I do stand up all around the city.
Amazing. Yeah, I definitely want to get into talking about how your politics and your activist work sort of intersects with comedy. But first, I think I'd love to ask what led you to writing and specifically comedy writing? Like, what were some of your inspirations, your interests growing up, your favorite comedians growing up? What led you down this path?
Yes, so I am a product of the musical theater to stand-up comedian pipeline,
I love
which
that.
is which yes, it's a common trajectory. So I was always performing as a kid, and always played the character roles. Maybe because I'm tall and an alto, so I always played like the drunk aunt. Yeah, like
Yep.
shout out to Miss Hannigan. I like to think that everyone at the Community Hebrew Academy of Toronto is still talking about my performance as Miss Hannigan and Annie in 2010. And then the next year after school played the Drowsy Chaperone. So I loved musical theater. And so I was like, sweet, that's going to be my thing through college as well. But so first semester freshman year, I did Sweeney Todd, which was awesome, and met some of my best friends. But second semester, I wasn't cast in a musical, but there was a stand-up competition on campus. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll start writing my own material. And it was literally just, yeah, out of having not been cast in a musical. So had I been cast in it at the time it was Bright Lights Big City, which is a show no one really remembers or talks about. But had I been cast, I maybe I wouldn't have started stand up. And in terms of inspiration, when I was talking to Amani, I was thinking, so one of my favorite movies growing up, and probably today, it's still, I've watched it in the fall and am so relieved that it holds up as a masterpiece, is School of Rock. It's just the best movie ever. And I was thinking the scene, yeah, where Jack Black explains rock as sticking it to the man. And I wonder if like I internalize that as yeah, as what I want to do with comedy is sticking it to the man.
I love that. I love that. I also really, really resonate with the alto girl in school getting cast as the the funny, weird older woman for sure.
Yeah, I still to this day I never got to play Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, which is like the ultimate like funny girl alto role. So maybe someday I can be like
There's
stunt
still
cast in a
time. There's still
community
time.
production.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned like not getting cast in a show led you to really diving into writing your own material, like making the work yourself. So what does your writing process look like? And how do you think that comedy writing sort of differs from writing other genres?
Yeah, I always think there's the element of like ironic detachment. Like there's the extra elements like whereas like yeah, a lot of writing you could say no, it's about like translating truth and putting it into words. Like comedy, then you have to add like the extra element of the punchline. Yeah, it feels like there's that extra step, but also that like extra layer of protection. So like I feel like comedy writing like is like yeah, less vulnerable. And I'm like in awe of like writers who have the capacity to be earnest without like the element of trying to then just like add a punchline. I feel like, yeah, for some the like extra layer is harder, and for some it's more natural than like purely confessional pen to paper. And
Yeah.
I'd say my writing process is a lot of I guess it goes back to School of Rock, sticking it to the man. I feel like so much of my comedy comes from anger, like literally just like what's pissing me off. So yeah, it's as far as outlets for anger go, it's like one of the healthier ones. So it starts from a place of like what grinds my gears.
Speaking about sort of what's angering you, pissing you off, you mentioned your anti-war podcast. You mentioned that you've worked on a lot of different sort of political projects, and I know you do a lot of just activist work in the community here in New York City and for global causes as well. And I think a lot of times our students think of comedy as sort of divorced from the real world, more serious issues, which is understandable as a kid. I think like it's sort of natural to think like you can't make light of certain
Hmm.
things. So I'm curious about how you sort of marry the two and bring a sort of a funnier lens to very serious topics.
I feel like, yeah, you'd think that comedy could like do a disservice to the serious topic and then kind of like dilute it or make it seem not as serious as it is. But at the same time, I feel like comedy can make a political point more memorable and actually help trying to make the point come across that you want to make. I was thinking the most effective like political communicators lately like are also the funny ones, which is so interesting. I was thinking about how like yeah, Mayor Zoran Mamdani's campaign really started picking up steam with his halalflation video. So his ability to, yeah, put like make a funny term or to like add personality, not making light necessarily, but like adding an element. I think it's safe to say that yeah, he has a great sense of humor and approached the campaign with a sense of humor.
Yeah, definitely. I when you mentioned him, the first thing I thought of was the video with the Hare's potato chip bag where
Yeah,
he didn't even mention the controversy around that that whole thing, but was just holding the bag the entire time. And yeah, it's definitely true that like it sticks in your mind more, so at least you remember it and you're thinking about it, which is I think some of the most important things we can do when we're thinking about sort of the crises that are happening around the world. And I think like it's no easy feat for sure. Like it definitely takes some doing to find that balance and strike that balance in a really like meaningful way.
and it goes back to making sure that you have the right targets. So
Hmm.
like for war is stupid, like it's important to me that no, the objects of the rage are the people at the top while like expressing empathy and solidarity with the people suffering for the decisions of the schmucks at the top. This quote is everywhere, but I forget who it's attributed to. It's one of those like azquotes.com classics, but like art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed. Yeah, when covering serious topics, would it make the a-holes uncomfortable to be called out for their BS? And would it make like the people suffering maybe feel comforted knowing like, no, like we're on your side, we're fighting for you?
I want to shift to your history with 826 NYC as an organization. So you've been volunteering for a while now. I'd love to hear how you got involved initially with 826 and what made you stay.
Yeah, I love it. So I live in the neighborhood. So or like a 20-minute walk away. So by New York standards, it's like really right next door. So I've walked by so many times and by the superhero supply store. And I always thought like this is exactly what I wish I had as a kid. So as a theater kid, and then now a history podcaster. So I was always, better at English and history than I was at math. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it would be so cool to have a place that like honors and celebrates the creative kids and says like, no, you're smart too. This is a form of intelligence. So in 2023 during the writer's strike, I was just feeling so much existential dread and creative block that I was like, no, I want to be in a creative environment. And then who better than than the kids who are just the fountains of creativity. Yeah, I'm sure like kids do have writer's block, but like they have less self-consciousness when it comes to putting pen to paper, putting their ideas out there. So it was more like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to like hopefully get that through osmosis. And it's a great community. Shout out, I think it was it Christmas or Halloween last year when there or it was Halloween with the wine pairings to Halloween candy.
Oh,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
volunteer party. Yeah, and I spend a lot of time online, which can be just exclusively exposing you to the worst of humanity. So it was great. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, 826 NYC is an excellent counterweight. And to be around people in real life and yeah, get to celebrate like smart, creative kids.
Yeah, so right now in our workshops, we are doing our 5 week comedy workshop. It's called What's the Deal with 826 NYC? Our after school kids and our weekend kids are all learning the fundamentals of comedy writing. They're participating in stand up workshops, sketch workshops. They're doing a lot of improv games, all different angles of comedy. So, as a professional comedy writer, do you have any words of wisdom for our kids who are just starting out their comedy writing journey?
Oh, that's so fun. This isn't very original, but just keep throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. It's like don't be afraid. I like when I write, I have like a doc on my computer. I call it joke dump, which is like kind of like a brainstorm, just like throwing as many things out there to be not be afraid to let go and experiment. This is a violent metaphor. But like I feel like so like some comedians are like snipers, like everything they like put out there is like sharp and deliberate, whereas like I my jokes are more like a, let's say, water gun, just like spraying all over everywhere. When you're writing, obviously you want it to be good, but with comedy, don't be afraid to, especially for your first drafts, like it doesn't have to be good, it just has to exist, and then you could see what's there that stands out, and sometimes it can surprise you.
I love that. Love that. Yeah, definitely a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks
Yes.
for sure. Orly, thank you so, so much for talking to me today. This was so fun. I'm so happy that we got to showcase more of you and your expertise and your knowledge about the field. Where can people find you if they want to see more of your work?
Yes, so on social media, I'm at Hire Me, I'm funny. So HIRE me, I'm funny. I figured that's easier to spell than Orly Matlow. And my podcast, War is Stupid, an anti-war podcast about war, is on YouTube and podcast platforms. And then I'll hopefully be by the center soon. So
Amazing. Thank you
yeah,
so, so
hope to
much.
see you there.